Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International.
This week, representatives from the Swedish Police Authority announced that they had recently arrested 4 young offenders after 2 of them allegedly committed an armed robbery and bragged about it, leading to their capture. According to reports, the incident took place on January 8th in the Stockholm suburb of JAKOBSBERG when the 2 alleged offenders entered a local gold shop and asked to look at some jewelry. After tricking the staff into opening a locker full of valuables in the store, the 2 suspects pulled out guns and forcibly took some of the jewelry before running off. Luckily for police, the 2 suspects couldn't keep their mouths shut after the robbery and bragged openly to a number of people about their criminal exploits. One of those people contacted police and tipped them off about the suspect's location. The 2 suspected robbers were tracked to an apartment building where they were hiding out, after which the reinforced regional task force were sent in to make an arrest. According to reports, a dramatic scene unfolded when the task force arrived, as at least one person at the apartment threw items out of the window and tried to escape from a balcony to get to a neighbor's house. Reports are unclear about whether this person was caught or not, but what we do know is that at least 4 people were arrested as a result of the raid, including the 2 alleged suspects behind the robbery of the gold shop. The other 2 people that were taken into custody were apparently already known to police and had previously been convicted of several crimes. All 4 suspects were arrested on suspicion of aggravated robbery as well as an aggravated weapons crime. Neither the names or ages of any of the suspects have been released at this time.
Authorities in the Mozambique province of MAPUTO say that the leader of a group of poachers has been sentenced to 30 years in prison this week after he was convicted of numerous offenses related to the illegal hunting of rhinos. According to reports, Admiro Schock was arrested in May of last year when he was caught returning from one of his illicit hunts for the second time. Further investigation into his activities revealed that he was actually the leader of an organized network of poachers operating in southern Mozambique as well as South Africa's Kruger National Park. The criminals were responsible for trafficking large amounts of rhino horn to Asia, particularly to China and Vietnam, where the horns are highly sought after. In addition to serving time for his convictions for poaching, illegal possession of weapons, and association to commit offenses, officials say that Schock must also pay a fine of 1% of minimum wage for the next 28 years.
If you tuned into last week's edition of Crimes of the Week International, then chances are you remember the heartbreaking story of Aisling Murphy, the 23-year-old Irish primary school teacher and musician who was brutally murdered while out for a jog along a popular canal path. Aisling's body was discovered by a member of the public on the afternoon of January 12th along the banks of Grand Canal just outside the town of Tullamore. At the time of our last report, police had announced the arrest of a 40-year-old man in connection with the murder. However, the man was subsequently released and eliminated as a suspect. Shortly after that, another man in his 30s was arrested and was questioned about potentially withholding information about the murder, but was also released. Finally, on January 19th, investigators announced that they had arrested a 3rd suspect and had charged him with Aisling's murder. The 31-year-old suspect has been identified as Jozef Puska, a Slovakian national living in the village of Mukla, just southwest of Tullamore. According to reports, Puska was arrested on January 18th after he checked himself into St. James Hospital in Dublin with serious and suspicious injuries the day after Aisling's murder. Hospital staff called police about Puska after being told to be on high alert for any patients presenting these kinds of injuries. At the time of this recording, Puska remains in police custody. His next court appearance is scheduled for January 26th.
Authorities on the Thai island of Phuket say that a 45-year-old man got quite the unsettling welcome to his recently purchased home this week when he was approached by one of his new neighbors and threatened with 2 guns. According to reports, the incident took place on the evening of January 17th in the island's THALANG district when 45-year-old Wisa Chu was chatting outside with some of his new neighbors. Chu had purchased a roughly half-acre plot of land in the area about 3 months ago, which had a small house on it that he had moved into. While the night started out in good spirits, things took an abrupt turn at approximately 8:30 p.m. when a man Chu had never seen before came up to the house where he and other neighbors were talking. He was carrying a handgun and a pump-action shotgun. The man, identified only as Mr. Yut, walked up to Chu before bizarrely claiming that he wasn't afraid of anyone, including the local village leader or the chief of police. He then began firing his guns wildly while waving them in the air, at several points allegedly coming close to shooting Chu in the face. Though Mr. Yut left after firing approximately 30 shots, Chu reported the terrifying incident to local authorities the following day. After a brief search, the man surrendered himself to police. At the current time, very little is known about Mr. Yut or why he apparently felt the need to threaten his new neighbor. It's said that he is the caretaker of a nearby shrine, but that a full criminal background check is now being done on him.
Authorities in the Argentine province of Buenos Aires say that they're searching for 2 suspects this week after muggers attempted to violently rob a woman outside of a medical center in broad daylight. According to reports, the incident unfolded at around 1 p.m. on January 19th outside of a medical center and rehabilitation center in the city of Quilmes. Captured by a home security camera across the street, the attack began when the victim, who has not been identified by name, stood outside one of the doors of the clinic as she waited to pick up her son. While standing there, she seemed to catch the attention of the 2 unknown suspects, who upon noticing her began to run towards her from the other side of the road. The men were able to catch the woman off guard, dragging her to the ground as they attempted to steal her backpack and suitcase. After that, a desperate struggle began as the woman screamed for help. Luckily for the victim, the commotion caught the attention of neighbors, at least one of whom began to loudly swear at the muggers and insult them. This was enough to scare them off, leaving both the woman and her possessions behind. While authorities say that they are searching for the 2 suspects, those who are familiar with the area say that this is just one of many crimes that have taken place recently in the area. They say that the police never patrol there, and that residents feel that they have to take safety into their own hands, hiring private security and setting up cameras. At the time of this recording, the 2 muggers are still at large.
While I'm sure that many of us remember having an item or 2 confiscated back in our grade school days, I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of these cases didn't result in criminal charges. However, the same can't be said for the case of one Japanese man who recently got himself in trouble during a rather bizarre quest to retrieve his confiscated contraband. According to reports, the incident took place sometime last week at a junior high school in the town of Mikasa, on the Japanese island of Hokkaido. The school was closed for winter break, apparently prompting the man to decide it was the perfect time to break in and try to get back the unknown item that had been taken from him by his teacher. The man, along with his girlfriend, managed to get inside one of the school staff rooms. However, it wasn't long before an employee who happened to be on the property heard them talking loudly and called the police. The man and his girlfriend were unaware of this and stayed at the scene trying to find what they were there for until police came in and caught them, placed them under arrest, and charged them with trespassing. While this might seem like a rather harsh punishment for something so silly, it's at this point that we should mention why police didn't see the incident as the playful antics of misguided teenagers. This is because, while the man and woman were students at the school at one time, they had both graduated well over 40 years ago, and were now 63 and 58 years old, respectively. Unfortunately, reports don't mention what the item was that the 63-year-old man had confiscated from him, but we're hoping that it was something pretty good, considering he was apparently still thinking about it more than 4 decades later. It's also unclear why the man believed that the item would still be at the school after all this time, though he apparently did tell police that he was at least hoping to find his old teacher's contact information if the search came up empty. Though a more effective strategy might have been to simply call the school and ask for his stuff back, police noted that the man and his girlfriend were drunk at the time they carried out their plan. If you ask us, they were probably drinking when they thought of the plan in the first place, as well.
Citizens across Kenya are taking to social media to express their fears and concerns this week after the country's National Police Service admitted that they were investigating the dumping of 19 bodies into the same river over the past 2 years. According to reports, the bodies were all found in the River Yala, a tributary of Lake Victoria, which originates in the country's west. Most were found in sacks and allegedly showed signs that the victims had sustained chilling injuries before they were killed. Perhaps most disturbing of all is that no one seems to be able to agree on just how many victims there are. While police have so far set the official number at 19 over the past 2 years, human rights group Hockey Africa say that during their investigation this week, they discovered 20 bodies alone at the Yala Sub-County Hospital. Because the hospital only keeps unclaimed remains for 90 days, the group argues that these must have all been recovered in just the past 3 months. This also appears to track with statements made by locals, who say that victims have been dumped into the river countless times, always at night by groups of unknown people. For their part, the National Police Service have remained firm that their official count is the correct one, but say that they have appointed a team from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to find the culprits responsible. At the current time, however, this has done little to quell the fears of citizens in the area, especially those who say that they're still searching for missing loved ones. At the time of this recording, the situation is still developing.
Authorities in the Australian state of New South Wales announced a devastating development in the disappearance of a 9-year-old girl this week, after her suspected remains were found in a barrel about an hour's drive from where she was last seen alive. According to reports, though 9-year-old Charlize Mutton usually lived with her grandmother near the Gold Coast, she was staying with her mother and stepfather last week at their home in Mount Wilson, in the state's Blue Mountain region, for a visit during school holidays. While reports currently contradict each other about the exact timeline, it's believed that Charlize went missing sometime between January 12th and 13th, before being reported missing by her mother early on the morning of the 14th. The report triggered a frantic 5-day-long search effort involving hundreds of police and volunteers who scoured the surrounding bushland. Meanwhile, at least 200 other employees were reportedly sent over from State Crime Command to help detectives working the investigative side of the case. The investigation ultimately led detectives to the partner of Charlize's mother, a 31-year-old man named Justin Stein. According to reports, through GPS tracking and CCTV footage, authorities were able to uncover Stein's activities before and after Charlize's disappearance. These activities allegedly included buying 100 kilograms of sandbags, fueling a boat at a gas station, and traveling to several other locations, including a boat ramp, where Stein apparently unsuccessfully tried to launch his boat. Police allege that his last stop was a spot at the edge of the Colo River, about an hour's drive from Mount Wilson, where the barrel with the 9-year-old's remains were ultimately discovered. Stein was arrested at an apartment in the Sydney neighborhood of Surrey Hills at approximately 8:30 p.m. on January 18th, and has now been charged with murder. At the current time, police say that they are still working to positively identify the remains, and have so far not determined a cause of death. They also say that they believe that Stein acted alone, but that their investigation is ongoing. That brings us to the end of this edition of Crimes of the Week International. If you're a fan of the new series, don't forget to tell us in the comments section below. While you're there, make sure to subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest videos. Thank you for watching.